Welcome, everyone. Today, Benzo Warrior Community is excited to welcome Dan Landauer to speak to our Zoom roundtable. Dan is going to present for about an hour and will entertain our questions afterwards. His talk is called From Benzo Despair to Hope and Healing, and he's going to tell us about his own journey through rapid benzodiazepine withdrawal and recovery. Oh, goodness. I am going to, actually, I think I'm going to refer you to the biography that we have for Dan that is already there in the announcement rather than reading it to you. But I'm going to let Dan touch on the highlights that he would like to on his own, if that's okay. And I'm just going to say welcome to Dan. Thank you so very much for joining us today. And thank you for being willing to share your experience with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Well, it's a stunning biography for sure. And my God, if you read it, it makes it sound like I actually might have something of a profundity to say to you guys today. I don't know. We'll see as we go along. Um, thank you, Barb, for having me, for reaching out. Thank you for everybody who works behind the scenes, I'm sure, to make these meetings happen. I'm sure it's a lot of work behind the scenes, so thank you so much for everybody, the unsung heroes of Benzo Warriors who do this. Um, I've been on Benzo Warriors, I think, for quite a long time. I think so. I'll just start off. I'll say I've been off of benzos and psych meds for 8 years. Actually, it was September 28th, so I just passed my 8 year mark off of psych drugs, and I think Benzo Warriors was there right around that time. I think I remember being on that group very early on. So to have, been where I was and now to come here and actually speak to you guys, it's kind of mind blowing for me, and it's really an honor to be asked to speak. It really is. It's been a long journey from where I started to where I'm at today. Um, as you well know, if you're on this meeting, it's not been easy. But as I like to say, it's been worth it. It's definitely been worth it. And I'm really happy to be able to say that today. And I'm happy to be doing this. Um, my, I hope I want to share with you guys my story in the intention that it would give you guys some hope. Um, my story is pretty, I think I was one of the more severe ones, just because I was ripped off of psych meds so abruptly. So I hope, I don't mean to trigger anybody or shock anybody with my story. So when I get to those parts, if you can kind of bear with me through the rougher parts, I think you'll see that what I want to share with you is the hope that I have throughout this whole entire process, from where I was to where I'm actually today. So I'll start off by saying that I was uh, I was always kind of I always kind of dealt with depression and anxiety ever since I was a little kid. And by the time I turned 17 years old, um, it was the it was the late mid 90s, and all the commercials on TV at that time said that if you have depression or anxiety, that there were meds out there for you to take, and you could take, this SSRI, and it would magically cure your depression. It was a chemical imbalance in my brain, and I was 17 years old, so I went to the doctor and I got put on an SSRI, and that started my journey with psychiatric medication. And the thing is when I first started taking it, I went manic actually. I was always kind of like on the other end, kind of on the depressive end, the low energy end. And when I started taking the SSRI, I became pretty aggressive. I became pretty manic. And looking back on it, there wasn't really any doctor oversight to see, what was going on with me. All I knew was that, the depression had kind of let up. So I felt a little bit better. And I didn't know any better. So I was like, yeah, this stuff is working, whatever. I don't know. Um, Also in my story, there's a concurrently running story with the meds that I take and also addiction. I'm going to focus more on the meds that I took and not so much on the addiction, um, because I think more people are going to relate to that. But it's impossible for me to cut out entirely due to some of the nature of the medications that I was taking along the way. So anyway, I was on Zoloft for a while, and I always still had the anxiety, right? I was on this SSRI, the anxiety was still coming up. And so when I was around 21 or 22, I was introduced to Xanax, to benzodiazepines. And right away, I was like, this stuff, it alleviated my anxiety. Um, it it took away my panic attacks that I was having. And so I kind of thought at the time, being young, 21, kind of reckless, and I didn't know any better. I started taking it, and I went to my GP, got a prescription for it, and I took it as prescribed, and it really helped me. I mean, it really did in the beginning. So fast forward, um, about 6 or 7 years later, I get into college, and all of a sudden, the anxiety came back, the depression came back, the despair came back, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, I'm taking this medicine, right? I'm taking this medication, it's supposed to be helping me. And I went on, there was some forum at the time, I don't remember what it was, but basically, I did find out that I was in tolerance withdrawal at that time. So now I had been on a steady dose of Xanax and SSRI for 6 or 7 years. Um, and I started to hit tolerance withdrawal really, really bad. Like I said, I was in college at the time. I was, it sent me through for a loop. I mean, it really, really pulled the rug out from underneath me. Um, I was getting to the point where I was like, scared to leave the house. And I'm like, I don't want to go up on this medication. I don't want to take more because, I know what's going to happen. If I take more, then when's it going to end? I'm just going to have to take more and more and more. But at the same time, it's that dilemma. I was stuck. I couldn't go down on my dose, and I was scared to go up. So I went to this psychiatrist at the college I was at the time, and she just suggested to me, she's like, Dan, it's no big deal. It's not a problem. It's not going to hurt you. You can come off of it anytime you want. So she gave me Xanax XR, like extended release. That started to work for a while. Then I went to Ativan. And basically, I upped my dose. And of course, as soon as I upped my dose, the panic symptoms went away. I felt normal again. I felt like I could cope. I finished out college, and a couple short years later, I hit tolerance withdrawal again. And this is when it really started to go downhill. I also had an opiate addiction running concurrent to this story the entire time that I was trying to get under control, that I was really having an issue with. So I found this new psychiatrist. The new psychiatrist said, let's take a look at what you're taking. Let's switch you from the SSRI to an SNRI. So I started taking an SNRI, upped my dosage, put me on Klonopin, and upped my dosage of the Klonopin. Labeled me bipolar at the time, which I kind of don't I kind of don't blame him for, because at the time, kind of what I was doing with the opiates and stuff, I was all over the place. I was up and down a lot. So to him, it probably looked like I was bipolar. But anyhow, so they put me on a mood stabilizer. So now I'm taking a mood stabilizer, an SNRI, the Klonopin is going up. And I just mentally and emotionally, I started to tank really, really fast. This cocktail wasn't working. I couldn't get my opiate problem under control. So long story short, I go to a new psychiatrist, and this new psychiatrist says, okay, let's put you on maintenance medication for the opiate addiction. I was taking 3 milligrams of Klonopin a day. He put me up to 5 milligrams a day, which is a huge, huge dose. Stayed on the other meds. So I'm taking like 5 meds. I'm taking a ton of Klonopin. Um, I think I'm bipolar, and I'm on this cocktail of medications, and also put me on Vyvanse, by the way, because he asked me if I'd ever been sleepy at work, and I said, yeah, I have been sleepy at work, And he said, okay, well, we've got this drug we can put you on that kicks ass. Sorry, kicks butt. It's called Vyvanse. We're going to put you on this. Those were literally his words. So at this point, it's 2014. I'm on this cocktail of medications. Emotionally, I'm coming apart at the seams. I had lost my job, and I just I went completely sideways. I couldn't think anymore. My cognitive abilities were declining rapidly. Um, a lot of SI was going on. I could barely work. I mean, I was working a menial job and I was making a mess of that. And, I'm taking all these medications and I'm looking at it and going, what gives? Because I'm taking all this stuff that the doctor told me I should be taking, right? And, I'm trying to follow their protocol. And yet, this is the end result. The end result is me having a lot of SI, coming apart at the seams, just I was emotionally a wreck. I absolutely could not hold it together. I was crying all the time, could not regulate my emotions whatsoever. And I was kind of just like, I don't know what else to do, I at that point I knew that I couldn't just abruptly quit the benzos. I knew enough to know that could be a big problem for me. And I didn't want to keep going up. I was taking a ton of them. Plus, I had this thing called an ocular migraine, which was crazy. I go to the doctor and they put me on an extra dose of Valium on top of all the drugs that I'm already taking. So I'm already taking 5 milligrams of Klonopin. They give me the Valium on top of that. I'm a total wreck. I'm a complete mess. I mean, I was taking so many meds, I must have been glowing when I walked down the street. So what happened was my family, they didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And my family said, they suggested, why don't you try treatment? Now, I didn't know about a benzo taper. I was just ignorant. I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't come off of them abruptly without medical help. That's all I knew. I was not, I never read the Ashton manual. I'd never heard of the Ashton manual. I was just pretty much in the dark. So I called this treatment facility, it's like a 30-day, in and out. And I said, I'm on Klonopin. I'm on 5 milligrams a day, and I've been taking that for over a year, and I'm on all these other drugs. Um, can you take me off of these safely? And they assured me, yeah, yeah, come on down. We'll keep you comfortable. It'll be fine. I remember him saying that. It'll be fine. We'll keep you comfortable. Now, okay, so I get to this treatment center, and God, 9 days. 9 days was my taper. I sit down with the psychiatrist, and she says, "We're going to have you off of everything in 9 days. We're going to make sure you don't have a seizure. You're going to be fine. We have medications to make sure that you don't seize out. You're going to be okay. Just trust us." And again, I didn't know much better at the time, so I just said, "Okay, yeah, 9 days, whatever. Let's do it." Totally ignorant. Um, so 9 days, I come off of everything. This is where this is the part of my story where it starts to get really foggy because uh, I on the 10th day I started to feel really, really strange. And all I remember is I was sitting when you're in a, if you've ever had experience with going through a rehab facility, they kind of shuffle you around to groups all day to kind of, give you structure. And I was sitting in this group and I just remember looking around and thinking, oh, holy crap, this is bad. This is really, really bad. My heart started pounding in my chest. Um, and I started to lose contact with reality. That's the best way I can put it. Reality just started to slip away from me. Nothing looked real. I didn't feel real. I had complete depersonalization, derealization set in, and it set in pretty quickly that 10th day. What happened next was I was laying in this bed in this facility for 3 days, and nobody came to check on me. I didn't move out of the room. My bunk was all the way against the wall, and I had like a hoodie up, and I was staring at the brick wall, rocking back and forth, and I couldn't move. I was so coming out of my skin, so anxious, and I didn't know which way was up or down. I mean, I barely could even tell you my name. I had just completely lost my mind, really. And I was staring at this brick wall, just rocking back and forth for 3 days. And nobody really came to check on me. They just kind of let it ride. And by the third day, I had a plan to take myself out. I'll just leave it at that. I had a plan to take myself out, and I don't know. I must have told somebody, or somebody found out about it, and they sent me to the psych ward from the treatment center I was in because they didn't know what to do with me. They didn't. I don't. It's crazy what happens in treatment centers. It's just absolutely insane that they could be running this treatment center for so many years, and they see me going through psychosis and they didn't know what to do. The only thing that they knew how to do was they heard me talking about my SI, and so they sent me to the psych ward. That was it. That was their solution. So ambulance comes, grabs me, takes me to the psych ward, and they gave me the gown, and I was in this psych ward, in this hospital in South Florida, uh, and I was out of my mind. I was in psychosis. I was in acute psychosis. Um, I thought that the other patients in there were out to get me. I thought that they were coming after me. I was scared out of my mind, and all I could think was to flee. Like that's the only thought in my head was like, I've got to get out of here. I can't stay in this place. And I wanted to go get some benzos because I knew if I at least had that, like I could maybe get out of the psychosis that I was in. But I couldn't communicate. I could barely talk to people. I could hardly put words together. All I knew was that I was in this psych ward, and I was screwed. I'm like, what am I? I don't know what to do. So they gave me some Ativan at the psych ward, which probably totally kindled me. I don't know. Um, what happened next was really interesting because, and I've talked to some other people about similar experiences that they've had coming off of benzos. Well, I was gonna say I go to bed that night. I didn't sleep. They put me in the bedroom that night with another patient, and I again I was in psychosis. I was out of my mind, and I had what I can only describe as like a spiritual awakening experience. I don't know, but um, I felt this like voice inside me say, if you just keep going, if you just make it out of this hospital and go back to that psych ward or go back to that treatment center, excuse me, that you're going to be okay. You've got to keep going though. Just keep going. You're going to be all right. And I was so sick. I mean, I was so sick. I was so sick that night. And the experience in the psych ward was, it was unreal. So I go back to the treatment center, and I don't know what to do. I'm out of my mind. I don't know. I can't hardly talk. I can't explain what's going on with me. The only thing that I could say was, um, please help me. Like give me some Klonopin or something. And they told me, no, we can't do that. We can't give you any Klonopin. So I figured I'm stuck here, but I'm gonna have to try to make it through this. I mean, I was so sick, I could hardly walk down the halls. They had these railings up and down the hallways that I would have to grasp onto and hold myself up to try to get down to the cafeteria. And I couldn't get food down hardly at all. I mean, just a bite here and there. And the people in the cafeteria were staring at me just like, God, what is wrong with this guy? It was a nightmare beyond a nightmare. It was a horrific, it was a horrific nightmare. So all I knew was to keep going. That's the only thing I could do. That's the only thing I knew is that I'm going to try to do this. I couldn't sleep for 5 days and nights. I was awake. They finally gave me I don't know, some medication, trazodone for sleep, which actually did help me get some sleep finally after 5 days. Um, Darkened peripheral vision. I felt like I was gonna stroke out all the time. The only thing that they gave me that actually kept my head above water was gabapentin, and that is really when they started me on that. They started me on it right away, actually. Um, When I tried to stop it, though, all of my psychosis and everything came back. So I knew that was keeping my head above water, so to speak. I went back to the psychiatrist that took me off of everything in 9 days, and I sat in front of her, and I was like sitting there in a heap, just in a mess, and I just kind of looked at her and I said, this is what happened. This is what you did to me. You know, I'm I have like I have brain damage bad. I am so sick. I am so sick. And I said, do you not know what you're doing? Do you not know how to take people off of meds? And I hope this doesn't trigger anybody, but her response was, well, you can't have this attitude. You have to have a better attitude, Dan. You're not gonna make it in life if you don't have a better attitude. And I know, I mean, thinking back about that, I mean, it like makes me want to destroy something. Just the amount of the how unaware the medical profession is, by and large around this is it's staggering. Anyhow, I somehow made it through. They kept me an extra, I don't know, 7, 8 days or something, because they said I was, special, and they told me that I was the sickest guy that they had ever seen come through that facility. And and this was from the medical director of this rehab, which saw a lot of patients. There was 150 of us in there at the time, and it was turning out 150 patients a month for many years. They told me that I was the sickest patient that they had ever seen come through their doors. And and I said, what do you mean, like the sickest, like this week, this month, this year? And they said, no, ever. You are the sickest person we have ever treated at this rehab. I'm like, oh, great. Well, that's great. Good for me. I win. So somehow I made it out of it. I made it out of that rehab. And my sister came and picked me up after being in there for 42 or 43 days and brought me back to her house. And I was still a wreck. I mean, I was crying. I the anxiety was out out of this world. It was unreal. I mean, my heart pounding in my chest. Um, and I had a lot of issues to clean up from the last few years before I went in that facility, because I had spent so much time just coming unglued. Um, my finances were a wreck. I didn't know, what am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to go back to work? Like, what is this? I didn't even know what was going on with me at that time. Like I said, I didn't know about Benzo Warriors. I didn't know about any of the Facebook groups. I didn't know about the Ashton Manual. The only thing that I knew was that I was really, really damaged from being ripped off of all these drugs so abruptly. So, um, one thing that happened, I guess I'll touch on this. I used to have this little key fob, and I used to keep my Klonopin in there. And when you go into rehab, they go through everything, and they're supposed to search through everything. And if they find contraband, they get rid of it. Well, they had left like a pill and a half of the Klonopin behind. And when I got home to my sister's house, I took some that day and the next day, so I probably rekindled myself further. It was a mess. I was a total mess. The whole thing was a mess. And, you know, I'm not telling you guys all this for shock value, believe me. Again, my only point for telling you this is how bad I was. And I didn't know how I was going to make it through one day at a time to the next day. I was a complete wreck. And I started going on the Facebook groups. I started to learn more about what was going on, what had happened, that I had this nervous system injury. Um, benzo belly was and still is my worst symptom. Um, it was really debilitating. The social phobia. Oh my God. I mean, I going out in public was it was atrocious. It was really, really hard. It was really difficult. I couldn't have a conversation. I could say hello, and then after that, I was like, the intrusive thoughts were just pounding me. Um, you know, I was just so sick from this injury. I briefly looked into going after that doctor in that treatment facility legally, but at the time I couldn't handle it. I didn't have the mental real estate to do that. I couldn't have done it at the time. Um, I all I knew was that I wanted to keep going. Like I wanted to try to see if I could get better. And the scariest thought was, what if I don't? Like, what if I can't? What if I'm stuck like this? Which is, I think, everybody's scariest thought when they go through this, especially early on. It's like, what if this is forever? What if this is it? And I know that was my biggest, scariest thought. I just thought, God, I don't know if I can handle this for the rest of my life. I don't know. But what I did was I started to go to recovery meetings for me, and that was really beneficial. I started to look for any ways that I could find to try to heal. Um, and I went down a lot of spiritual paths. I looked into like every spiritual path that was out there. I looked into self-healing, meditation. I tried to read as many books and listen to as many podcasts and get as much information as I could about what had happened to me and how I could possibly heal from this. And I mean, I looked into every possible alternative therapy because I knew I couldn't go back to the medication. I was like, I'm done with psychiatry. I'm done with the medications. That's for sure. You know, Reiki therapy, acupuncture, chiropractic, everything, anything that came up like in my field of awareness that might help me, I tried. And, you know, I think I benefited from a lot of it. And I had this like determination. I had a 4-year-old girl. She turned 4 years old when I was in that treatment facility. I missed her fourth birthday. I was in psychosis out of my mind. I wanted to live so bad for her and my wife. I loved them dearly. And I was like, I don't care what the hell I have to do, and I don't care how long it takes. I am in this for the long haul. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get better. And I'd like to tell you that that was like an unwavering dedication that I had, you know, the whole time I was healing. But of course, you know, it comes and goes because you know these benzo injuries just they impact you and beat you down so hard. The road to get better is it's you know it's generally, I think for most of us, the general trajectory is up, but it's like this. It's up and down, and it's up and down, and it's up and down. But I was committed. I wanted to live. I wanted to live for my little girl, and I told myself I'm not going to miss another birthday of hers. I'm never going to go through this again. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to get better. So I was, you know, I'm damaged. You know, I could hardly read my daughter books at nighttime. You know, we're talking children's books, right? For like a 4-year-old. And just trying to read the words off the page was so hard. And I would get frustrated. And I'm like, I can't, I'm seeing the words, I'm trying to comprehend the words, and I'm trying to make my mouth say the words that my mind is trying to comprehend, and I couldn't do it. And I would get frustrated. And I would like throw the book, you know, and I'm like, God, what? You know, I used to kind of pride myself on being kind of witty and funny, and that was just gone. I mean, my personality was just gone. Like it was flat. Um, I didn't want, you know, any attention on me at all. You know, so I would just wear like very basic plain clothes. Like I bought gray t-shirts and black t-shirts and a hoodie that I would just put up because I wanted to be invisible. I didn't want anybody to see me because I didn't want to talk to anybody because I couldn't. And I was like this for at least the first 6 months. And then it came time I had to go back to work. I didn't have like a savings, like a cushion, or I'm not a trust fund baby. I didn't have any money. I was like, I have to go back to work. I don't have another option. Like I will be living on somebody's couch or I will be homeless if I don't go back to work. I have to. So out of necessity, I took a job. Uh, mixing paint at a hardware store. And it was so anxiety inducing for me because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I really don't. There was so much doubt and anxiety going into it. And I really, if I would have had the money to sit for a while, I definitely think I would have taken at least a year to a year and a half before I went back to work. But out of necessity, I had to. In retrospect, though, I think it was good for me. I really do today because it showed me I can do this. Like it forced me to step out of my comfort zone. It forced me to do it. And I know that's not the case for everybody. I know some people physically can't do that. But I know for me, I that was one of those steps that like I had to take. I still had really bad anxiety. I still had social phobia, really, really bad. My benzo belly was horrific. Nerve pain. I mean, my back hurt so much all day long. I was like hunched over in pain and anxiety. And it was, somehow I would just go to work and I would try to make it through. I was working part-time. I would work a few hours, go home. Um, I took a lot of walks, and that was something that I found really therapeutic. I had akathisia, and it wasn't the extreme terror end of the spectrum, but it was significant. I mean, I couldn't sit down. I really I had a problem ever sitting down. I had to have like this forward momentum, this restlessness. It felt like my muscles were like crawling around inside my body, and I just had to keep going, no matter what that forward momentum looked like. So a lot of times for me, it was just I have to get out of the house. I have to walk. I have to go on a bike ride. I have to go on a drive. And as long as I was like moving, it kept it at a manageable level. But if I tried to sit down, I just couldn't. I could not do it. I couldn't watch a movie. I couldn't sit and listen to music. I couldn't sit and play guitar. All things that I love to do, I totally taken away from me. I didn't even touch the guitar for probably 6 months because even the vibrations of the strings felt so weird. It felt so strange and it felt like icky. It felt like the vibrations of the strings were like vibrating my teeth. I know that sounds crazy, but I couldn't do it. Um, so it was a long road. It was a long road, and people ask me a lot, like, when did you start to turn a corner? And I can't really say. It's just been so gradual. I do know that at 9 months, I felt like something happened. And I would go around people that had seen me since the beginning, and they said, "God, Dan, you look so much better." I'm like, "Oh, great! I don't feel better, but if I look better, that's at least something." But I think something turned around for me at 9 months, but I was still really, really damaged. Again, the social phobia, the anxiety, the benzo belly, the hurt nerves, the akathisia, that was all still there. But it was starting to get better. It was starting to get better, and I was starting to get windows. And those windows started to give me hope that maybe I could get past this. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I could actually live a better life and heal from this, But that scary doubt was always still there too. So I went back to work full time, realized I was able to do that. I was able to hold down a job. And along the way, that spiritual awakening that I had had in the psych ward stayed with me. And I began to find ways to deepen that experience and ways to integrate that experience into my life and into all the avenues of my life. Even though I was so damaged, even though I had been through all this stuff and I was still in it, that voice that was inside of me in that psych ward that said, "Keep going, you're going to be okay." I would always go back to that. And I realized that I was changing. I was changing in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, I was changing for the better. And I talk to people today and I say it's, this process is like being forged in fire, where going through this process, as horrific as it is, it really has the potential to change us for the better. I believe that. And I had to believe that when I was going through it. I couldn't let this just be gratuitous injury and gratuitous pain. I had to make sense of it. I had to find a way to make sense of this. So for me, I looked for ways that this could make me better. I looked at ways that I was selfish, that I didn't want to be selfish anymore. I looked at ways that I could be a better father. I looked at ways that I could be a better husband, a better brother, a better son, a better member of my community. And and I looked at all the things that I ever wanted to do that when I was in that treatment center and I was so sick. And I just said, God, if I can get out of here, if I can get out of this treatment center, I'm going to do all the things that I ever wanted to do that always scared me. And I'm going to do everything that I can because that'll be my second shot at life. And I started to do those things. I started to do the things that scared me. And I started to public speak for one. Like public speaking is like one of my biggest fears. And I started getting asked to speak and I started doing it. And it's been a long journey and it's been worth it. It's been worth it. This process has changed me. It's changed me in a lot of ways. And it's changed me in a lot of ways for the better, for sure. It's forced me to look at my life in a different way. It's forced me to seek out other avenues of healing and other avenues of living a healthy life. And what does a healthy life mean for me today? What does a healthy life look like for me today? And how do I want to show up in the world today? Do I want to show up as the person that I used to be? Do I want to show up with love and gratitude and kindness and and um, and being there for the people that are in my life and being kind and being these are the things that like enrich my life that I didn't. I mean, we all hear about them, but I never practiced them before, right? The being kind to others, being kind to strangers, being just a different person today than I used to be. It fills my life with so much more joy. I have more joy today than I ever had in my life. And I know it's part and parcel of going through what I went through. I wish that it didn't have to be so excruciating, and I would never wish it on anybody. But it has changed me for the better, that's for sure. Um, people ask me, sometimes I'll call myself healed today. Um, and the people will say, well, wait, you still have symptoms, right? And I say, yeah, I do. So I'm not 100% healed. I'm not. I put myself at about 85% because I still have benzo belly. I still have what I think is leftover chemical anxiety. I'm not sure. Um, I still get nerve pain sometimes, but it's nothing like it used to be. And here's the thing, this is why I call myself healed. I call myself healed because all I wanted was to get to a place in my life where I could function like I wanted to function without being hindered so badly by the benzo damage. And I figured if I could get to that point where I could at least live my life and get past the worst of these symptoms, I'll call myself healed. So that's what I say today. I call myself healed, even though I still have some lingering symptoms, because I can do what I want to do today in life. I'm not held back. Um, Felt like I was going to say something else, but it just eluded me. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. Um, it's really been amazing to see and think about how I was on Benzo Warriors when I was so deep in it, and then I actually get to speak to you guys today. I love the Benzo community. I love you guys so much. We have a common journey in suffering that nobody else understands. Nobody else understands us the way we understand each other. Oh, I guess I'll touch a little bit on I do offer coaching, and that came about as a complete accident, really. I just started a YouTube channel a little over a year ago, and I wanted to put my story out there. I figured, I can't hide this thing anymore. And I don't care who sees it. I don't care what happens with it. When I get to the end of my life, if somebody wants to ding me for, coming out and telling my story about what happened to me, that's on them. But if it helps somebody, if it helps one person, then, I'm willing to go public with my story. So I did. I put that out on YouTube and I started making videos, and it became this amazing community called Philosophical Fishing. And I started to have people reach out to me and ask me if I would be willing to be a coach. So that's how that started. It just kind of happened organically, and now I'm so honored to be able to do that. Um, it's amazing. So again, thank you guys so much. Thank you for asking me to be here today. I appreciate it. Thank you.